But I want to speak about Arsenal because Arsenal now have the most valuable squad in the world, valued at 1.21 billion. It's now more valuable than Manchester City's. There's fans now that I've spoken to that are claiming that they are now on City's level. In fact, we have a video. We have a video for you to listen to from last night from a very well-known Arsenal fan claiming just this. Take a little listen.
And Arsenal or Manchester United.
How far behind are Manchester United? Manchester United
from Arsenal, not City, just from Arsenal.
Bro, understand that if you're talking about Arsenal, you're talking about City also.
So this is what we're now hearing. If you're talking about Man City, you're talking about Arsenal also. They've got the most valuable squad in the world. There are many fans out there that are confident of another title charge. As you've said, Jermaine, you've just done a summer like you would never expect. You've signed the Havertz, you've signed Timber, of course, you've gone and got Declan Rice. Surely, how much pressure and expectations are upon Arsenal going into next year? And are they now on Man City's level?
That's, to be honest, after this window, that's the pressure is the only slight negative that we can have, because we love Arteta, and after this window and after everything we've been doing, expectations have now risen. So there is a lot of pressure and there is a lot of more expectation. But that squad valuation thing, I think that's based on potential. That's probably having guys like Balogun in there who we value around 40-50 mil. If you've seen the reports, he isn't a 40-50 million player, but that's just like squad valuation. And we have a young team who just signed new deals, so their player value will be a lot. So I wouldn't really take that valuation thing in. I'll look at United spend more and talk about their real valuation and Chelsea as well. They're the real criminals in this thing.
See, where I disagree with you, you have to look at spend in terms of manager, but you have to look at valuation, because how much did Saka cost you?
Nothing.
But do you value him as being worth £0?
Okay, that's a one-off example. That's like the Rashford example.
But exactly. So valuation dictates your expectations. Liverpool fans paid £7 million combined for Trent and Robertson, but they are arguably, for a period, they were the two best fullbacks in the league, maybe even in the world. You didn't expect them to deliver. Their expectations weren't at 7 million. Your expectations for Martinelli next season are not that of a 18 million pound player. Your expectations of him are to go and help deliver a title to you. So your expectations have to be based on the valuation of your squad, not just what you spend. It can't be ignored, but you have to look at valuation of the squad and how, it's valued high because they're that good, right?
I accept where we are, though, to be honest. Like, next season, I do expect us to challenge for the title and at least get out the group in the Champions League. Even talking about the Champions League, that's one of Arteta's main issues.
At least get out of the group.
Yeah, at least get out of the group, bro.
Finish second in the group in the Champions League is your minimum expectation. Not like get to quarters, get to semis.
Listen, maybe the quarters, but after last 16, Arteta is not proven in Europe. Go look at his track record in Europa League. It's one of his main flaws. He's not proven in Europe. So I can't start talking about semi-final expectations. I need to see him at least come across 2 legs first. Get over the line with 2 legs.
You've got a squad. If your squad can challenge for the Premier League, then I'm sorry, it should be able to reach the semi-finals of the Champions League.
It's
in Europa. Under Emery, we hit the final. Under Wenger, we hit the semi-final. Arteta's gone out to Olympiacos, Sporting Lisbon, and I can't remember last season. Maybe I think it was Emery himself he went out to. The guy he can't. It's like he struggles to juggle his squad with European nights and the weekend. So I can't then cuss the team and be like, "Oh, your squad's good enough." That's the manager's responsibility to rotate his team, right?
Yeah, but your excuses with Arteta when it comes to Europe has always been your squad's not strong enough. Do you know what I mean? Your squad's not strong enough. Now you've actually improved your squad. Do you get it? If you've got Declan Rice starting, you've got Havertz, who could be a squad player if you start Partey and Rice and Odegaard. You've still got Jorginho, you've got Smith Rowe, you've got Vieira. You've got a heavy squad. So
you've got a lot. I love how you're naming them, mate. I love it.
Do you know what it is? Do you know what it is? Yeah, I get what you're saying in terms of being skeptical about Arteta in Europe, but by default, Arsenal have to get out of their group. Like
we have to get out of the group.
You have to
but
get out.
I ain't got expectations.
No. I'm sorry. You can't have a Premier League winning squad. If you think you can win the Premier League, that means you have to have a Premier League winning squad. You cannot have a Premier League winning squad that can only get out the group stage in Europe. How much you think it's on the manager or not?
Just for now.
No, how much do you think's on the manager or not? Part of it is on the players as well, because they're the ones who actually do it on the pitch. Whether you think Arteta has an experience in the Champions League or not, if he can win the Premier League, he should be able to get to the quarterfinals of the Champions League. The squad should be good enough to get to the quarterfinals of the Champions League. Having the expectations of a group stage, getting out the groups, it just when you're putting the expectations on you and putting the pressure on you, saying they should challenge next year, and then you're saying, oh well, Arsenal should get out the group. It
Tom,
just
that's
seems
phase
like double
5.
standards.
In phase 7, they'll get to the quarterfinals of the
The
Champions
super
League.
chat here said Arteta has spent 591 million since he became the Arsenal manager, including the Rice. That's like 149 per season if you average it out. It's a lot of money that's been invested, and of course, context will always be applied. But there are no more excuses. It's the liver or bust essentially now for Arsenal. And listen, I'm not saying it's all Arsenal fans, but when I hear a gal say things like, when you talk City, you're also talking about Arsenal. That is, I don't listen. Some will say a gal don't represent us, and it won't be all Arsenal fans that think that way. Of course not. But a gal will be sitting in group chats with dozens of other gooners all saying the same thing. Because Igal's like that. Igal's a little bit of a hive mind person. Igal kind of will, like, Igal will come on a stream and go, I'm angry we signed Kai Havertz. He'll go to an Arsenal group chat. The next day, he'll be spinning you a yarn about why it's amazing, because he's a little bit like that, Igal. But I mean, you threw yourself back in your chair, Tom, when you heard Igal say that. Do you think that's far too premature for Arsenal fans to think?
It's offensive to what Pep Guardiola and Manchester City have done. They just won a treble. They just completed football pretty much in England. The only one they didn't win was the Carabao Cup, which he's won 4 times already. It doesn't matter. To say that Arsenal, under Arteta, who have had a reputation, and this is the only reputation they have at the minute, of when the going gets tough, they crumble. Trying to say that you are on the same level as Pep Guardiola and Manchester City, who have just won 3 back-to-back-to-back Premier Leagues. It's just it's downplaying what he's done.
You know what it is?
It's
Yeah,
offensive to what he's done.
I think the Arsenal fan just wants respect on Arsenal's name. I don't really. He's not really
Then you
saying,
go too
"Oh, we're the
far.
same as City."
You get the disrespect because you overdo how much respect you want.
You know, I don't understand though, Jermaine.
If you pull so hard one way, it's going to get pulled back even harder the other way.
Jermaine, you were getting on to Tom. You were saying, oh, Liverpool are making Europa League signings. Then you started bigging up your signings, basically trying to insinuate that you're making Champions League signings. But then now you're saying, oh, at least get out of the group. So surely if you lot are making big boy signings like Rice, the minimum you have to get to is at least a quarterfinal of the Champions League. If you look at the teams in Europe, Arsenal are up there. Let's be real, bro.
To be honest, if we do get out of the group and we go out in the last 16 to, let's say, Napoli, it will be nothing shorter than a disgrace. So we should probably squad-wise get to quarter semi, but under this manager, I don't really believe it.
So you don't believe in the manager then?
Not in Europe, not yet. That's one of my personal flaws. I've seen this Europa League stuff is a disgrace. I think some Arsenal fans aren't even scrutinizing him enough for it. They're saying, oh, it's better to just focus on the league. No, Arteta's not going out on purpose. Trust me, he's not.
The Champions League, you have to remember the Champions League is not the same as a league competition. Like the Champions League, we saw it last season in the Premier League, Arsenal competed all the way to the end, right? Because the Premier League, when you win a league title, it's more of like, yeah, you had better squad depth, you had a better team. In the Champions League, one day you're off it, you lose, you're out. One game. It's not the same thing. So I agree with
I'm sorry, no, because you don't judge your expectations off of the Champions League on, well, you could do this or you couldn't. You go in there going, my squad can do this, my squad should do this. Otherwise, you're sitting there giving everyone the same chance of winning the Champions League at the start of every tournament because, well, it could be their day every time it's a game. No, the league needs more regular consistency, but you need to be more consistent in the Champions League.
I've got some super chats here. First one from Arsenal Till I Die says, I can't stand rival contradictions. If he says we'll get to the Champions League final, you'll say he's deluded, he's being conservative, and it's a problem. You all claim to have zero European heritage. Make your mind up.
Big up Arsenal Till I Die, man. Thank you for that super chat.
But I just said I expect more from an Arsenal squad who I'm being told can win the Premier League than just our expectations get out the groups.
I hear you on that. This year says you could go to every fan base and find deluded quotes, but no, that's all only highlight what random Arsenal fans say to mayor the fan base and look bad joke. Well, it isn't really about that, you know. It isn't the only Arsenal fan. I've seen many comments in the live chat, seen many things online of talk on those levels where we're at now. You know, I think I've seen a few gooners online talk on podcasts talk about I think we can win the league next year. If you can win the league, that means you think you're on Man City's level, right? Like or better. So, and we're just having a conversation about it. You know, it's one. If we just didn't talk about things people were saying and opinions that are out there, these shows wouldn't quite work. And I don't think there's anything wrong. I don't think there's anything wrong with Igal thinking what he thinks. He's allowed to. If he thinks they're going to move up to City's level this year, if you actually listen to Igal, he thinks that City are going to have a drop off. So his prediction is very much we're going to get better and City are going to drop off a little bit. So he believes there's almost a meeting in the middle. I don't think his logic's overly off. This year says what the Gunner can't admit is that the squad won't have the mentality for the knockout stages of the title running, and that's based on experience. Do you think you'll have enough experience next year? You know, if you're in the knockout quarterfinals of the Champions League and in a title race, do you think Arteta and your squad will be able to manage that mentally this season coming up?
I think with the Premier League, 100%. I think they'll be able to get over that, what happened last year. In terms of the Champions League, I will stand by my no expectations. We haven't been in it for 7 years. The current manager hasn't even been the best in Europa, so I don't really have much expectations for it. You guys might have different from me. But in terms of the Premier League, I don't expect us to have mentality issues again. We've already come across that barrier. We should be there and learn from experience this time and understand what it takes. And when the Southampton at home come up or these lower league clubs at home come up, understand that this game could go left. So I expect them all to use the last season L, let's say, and fire that into their system.
Martin here says, Arteta the only manager with pressure. It's hilarious. Must win the Champions League and Premier League or rivals demand his sacking.
That's why Ten Hag, he cannot get away from no expectations. So I'm not having it.
Wait, what?
I don't think there is. I don't think Man United have no expectations on them. I don't know about you, Pete. I don't know about you, like Don. We know that Postecoglou has no expectations, but like, I think there's expectations on everybody's teams and managers to deliver. No, or am I missing that?
There's expectations, but there's levels of expectations. So you could have high expectations winning the Premier League. You could also have expectations of getting in the top 4. So I think everybody has expectations. Like no fan thinks, all right, if we get relegated, it's fine because I don't have an expectation.
Yeah, I think with Arsenal, it's 4 going on to 5 years as the manager, nearly £600 million spent. Of course, the expectations are different to maybe Ten Hag, who's going into the second year. But go back based on and this is what Arsenal fans have got to learn to accept. When you create the phased approach, in phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, you're gonna have other clubs that will throw that back at you when you try and put. Like, I don't mind there being pressure on Ten Hag, but a lot of Man United fans will push back and go, "Well, there's hypocrisy there because none of you were demanding titles at the start of your second full season with Arteta, and you've got nowhere to go unless you want to do what you did. Man United are bigger, we're better, we're richer, more famous, expectations are higher." But at the end of the day, I don't disagree. There should be expectations. However, Arteta has to have them on him. He has to have expectations to win the league now after going into his 5th year with £600 million spent. It's too big a club not to.
Yeah.
With that phased thing, it's a bit different. Like, let's say this summer we spent 200 million. I feel like Arteta's earned the right to spend that. Eric Ten Hag, well, not just trying to sing out United, but he's walked in with money to spend. Arteta's kind of had to prove himself first before saying, cool, let's back this guy. Even that summer where we spent 120 mil and everyone said, oh, it's the most we've spent. Arsenal spent the most this summer. That was on 5 players. That same summer, Grealish went to the City for 100 million, 1 player. Sancho went to United, 75 million. Lukaku went to Chelsea, 100 million. You guys are all spending 100 million on one guy. We've spread that across 5-6 guys and on like 20-30 mil guys. And people are saying, oh, Arsenal spent the most. You have to apply context. You guys were already made clubs. Arteta picked up Arsenal from the mud, took out Orba, took out Ozil. I was going to the Emirates watching Joe Willock No offense to the Newcastle fan, but watching Joe Willock in our number 10 position.
See where you're wrong, though. See where you're wrong is you have to contextualize the situation as well. So Arteta's first full summer window was the 2020-21 season, right?
Yeah, but you're missing out January. He had the January window before that.
So he had the January, but I'm just saying from the first full summer when he came in, what you're forgetting is he spent 86 million. That same summer, Man United only spent 83 million. That was the COVID summer. And
But
clubs
you bought Fernandes in January before that for 60 odd.
who?
You did. You bought Bruno Fernandes that January for 60 odd million.
Right. Okay.
you
No,
got top four.
and I understand that, but the previous season before that, you spent 160 million pound on players. You
Before
spent
Arteta?
but before Arteta. So you sweat ready-made teams. The summer before Arteta came in, you dropped 30 million on Saliba, 27 million on Tierney,
Saliba
80
went on
million.
loan.
Yeah, but that was your club's decision. Like you still invested the money. He could have stayed, right? The point is, you spent 80 million on Pepe. You brought in David Luiz. You guys spent 160 million during the season that Arteta came in. His first full summer, he got 86 million. That same summer, Man United spent 83 million. The following year, you spent 167 million. Man United spent 142 million. So 2 years of Arteta, you've actually spent more than Man United so far. The following year. It's not about acceptance. It's a fact. The following year, you spent 192 million. Man United spent more than you that year. We spent 143 million pounds. This summer so far, you've spent 231 million. We've currently spent, we will include Onana, 100 million. So far, since Arteta has been the manager of Arsenal, you've spent more money than Man United.
But you're not including Bruno in January though, so it can't be true.
But I can't. So you want me to add the Bruno money from the January?
Because if you're saying so far, Arteta joined Arsenal in October 2019. Bruno came after that. So whilst we're running around,
hang on a minute. We shouldn't even be doing that anyway. Why are we including players that Erik ten Hag didn't sign? Are we going to include all the players that were signed before Arteta arrived as well?
Now I'll give you that argument with the managers because Erik ten Hag has only been here for a year. So, like you said, there's guys like Maguire.
We're going to compare, managers versus managers. My manager spent about 260 million, and yours has spent 600 million nearly. But yet, you think they should have the same expectations?
I think what Erik ten Hag walked into a much better team than what Arteta had. And whether you guys want to agree or not, I don't know. But we were not good.
And that's a fair opinion. That's a fair opinion from you. But we had our before you arrived. We had our worst season in 40 years.
Statistically.
Okay? Yeah. Well, but that's would you agree that the league table dictates who the best to worst teams are?
Okay, cool. But do you actually believe when Erik ten Hag took over, you guys were in a similar position to Arsenal?
I predicted we would, at the start of last season, I predicted we'd come 7th.
Okay, then fair enough.
Like I can only be intellectually honest about what I think. I don't really care what other people said. I don't know what you said at the beginning of last season, but this is why I also, by the way, when I said we overachieved last season, I got called out. Everyone said, no, you had a brilliant team. All the people saying we didn't overachieve predicted us coming 7th, 8th, 9th. There's got to be some intellectual honesty here when it comes to these debates. And by the way, I'm very happy for there to be expectations on my manager. I'm just pointing out that Arsenal fans have got to understand that there are expectations on Arteta now. There's nowhere to hide. And listen, I've praised you guys for it. You're dropping 200, 300 odd grand a week contracts on people. That's big boy stuff. When you start doing that, it's win big trophies or it's failure. And doesn't mean or sack him. If you don't win a trophy this year, you've failed. If Man United don't win a trophy this season, we've fouled. If Liverpool don't win a trophy this season, they've fouled. If Spurs don't make it in the top 8, they've fouled. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I know everyone's got different levels here, but I'm just saying, like, it is true. I've got some more.